Hi guys, and welcome to The Truth Hurts with Tony Quinn, where we talk addiction, recovery, and everything in between. And today I am so stoked to say that I have my friend and South African comedian, entrepreneur. Did I say that right?
I think so.
I didn't.
I don't think it matters. As long as, we're successful. It doesn't matter what they call us.
Yeah, and business person. So I have got John Vlismas with me today, and I'm so happy to have you here and hear you share your story.
Hi, Tone. Thanks for having me here. This is such a cool vibe.
I know, it's amazing. It's incredible to be here. I can't believe this is happening, and I get to interview you.
It's fantastic.
I just want to tell you guys how I actually met John, because he doesn't remember the first time I met him.
That's true.
Yeah, it was, I was going to my ex-boyfriend's tattoo shop.
You were?
I was, and I walked in and I saw John getting a neck tattoo.
One of these, actually?
Yeah, this one. It was this one. I saw him getting that, and I said hi, and obviously you couldn't actually turn your head to physically see me
I
at the time.
I was sitting like this for hours.
Yes.
So I knew I met someone. I didn't know what you looked like.
It was me.
Yeah.
It was me. That's who you met. But then John and I met again at a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, a 12-step meeting. And you walked in, I was standing outside, and someone at that meeting said, you guys need to talk.
That's right.
And we got talking, and the next day you shipped off to Rehab.
I did. I went to go Rehab again.
To Rehab again, and that's the story we're going to get into.
Absolutely.
So this podcast is just like about what we've been through, what we've learned, and all of that. And I don't know, John, I think the best place to start is the beginning. Like, tell us a little bit about you and your childhood.
Sure. So I always say that I grew up as an only child, which really pissed off my brother and sister. I'm the middle kid. But what I mean by that is, with reflection, I was always kind of selfish. I guess that's the beginning of, for me anyway, an addict, right? So, because part of being selfish means never ever wanting to go through anything unpleasant or that I don't want to go through.
Absolutely.
So never really sitting with discomfort, just getting out of it. So my first kind of way of escaping was just bullshit. It's just bullshit. Okay. Like imagination. Started in my own head, and then bullshitting other people.
Yeah.
Because much easier just to lie and never have to deal with like truth. So like insecurity, not being enough, being uncomfortable with people not liking you.
Yeah.
I think other kids were getting on with it. They didn't have that option. They didn't exercise that option. But I did. So I just built up this big overdraft of undealt with stuff, you know?
Yeah, I get that.
And then kind of an outsider, but I don't want to make that romantic because it's too easy to be the outsider, like kid in the 80s movie. Okay, sorry, that's an age reference for me.
No, but I get that because that's how I saw it while I was going through my stuff. Like, I wanted to be the outsider.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
And we can easily romanticize that easily.
Yeah, and other kids were bullied and other kids were fucking, went through bad things, but they didn't make the choices I did.
Yeah.
So ultimately, yes, there were some difficult things in my childhood. I was bullied quite a lot, sexually abused at a young age. But at some point, that stuff wasn't my fault, but it's definitely my responsibility. And that's not a saying I came up with. This is all very useful stuff from the fellowship that we belong to. Those phrases might sound cheesy, but they fucking work. And they're true. So I really positioned myself. I became really good at the narrative that I'm this kind of outsider.
Yeah.
And it just hurts, to be isolated.
But that, John, like with the abuse and already feeling those emotions of being different, getting bullied, dealing with that as a kid is traumatizing, and it is a trauma.
Yeah. No, that's a real trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm not dismissing what you said about it being your responsibility.
Sure.
It absolutely is as an adult now. But as a kid, how did you navigate those emotions? Did you kind of just push everything to the back?
Yeah, totally. Just drive it down,
Yeah.
Just like, pack it away. And the problem with that drawer is it festers. And things come out the wrong way, So always doing something to escape having to feel.
Exactly.
And then at a certain age where lying was one thing, but I just found booze and booze made it all go away. It was all better. But and I was young. I was like maybe 14 the first time I got drunk. I was much younger the first time I got drunk, probably a lot, probably like, yeah, 12.
Do you remember the first time you got drunk?
Yeah.
Tell me a little, like your memory of it.
So I was with cousins in a rural town, and we went out to like a kind of a underage dance thing.
Yeah.
Social. There was no booze there, but we went to one of the like friends' houses afterwards, and they thought it'd be hilarious to make me a cup of coffee or tea with something in it.
Of course.
So I knew it tasted weird, and then I just got a little bit giggly, but it was quite cool because I lost that anxiety.
Exactly.
And I didn't care. So that worked. But like very soon after that, I would just drink to blackout.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do what other people did, which is have a few drinks and then kind of enjoy that kind of buzz.
Yeah.
I had to drink straight to like oblivion, and wake up and feel terrible and say, I'm never going to do that again. And pretty soon do it again.
Absolutely. And with the drinking, with the blackouts, because I experienced, it was every single time I drank, I had a blackout. And I thought, and I don't know if you had the same thing, like growing up, especially as a teenager, did you think that is what getting drunk was?
Oh, totally. Like, I mean, that's the only option. It was,
100%.
like a blackout. Like that was,
Yeah.
End on the floor. Like that was it.
That's what I thought when people said to me, oh, I got drunk last night. I thought they blacked out. Like, I genuinely believe that is part of getting drunk.
Like there are people who just have a few drinks and then they wake up and they go, oh, I had such a hangover this morning. What did you drink? Oh, no, I had 3 glasses of wine. I'm like, what the fuck, man? You're just talking shit. That's ridiculous. So completely. And I became like the kind of like cabaret drunk for my friends. I was a show, what's John going to do now? And suddenly I realized that attention filled some kind of gap. So I played that role, and if I made people laugh at school, they wouldn't hit me.
Yeah.
So that was quite good. And I just did fuck all at school. I mean, I didn't play any sports. I didn't, and I'm not suggesting that's a cure for anything. But what I do think is that playing with other kids,
Yes.
trying, can maybe connect you or teach you how to deal with stuff.
Community.
You could say that I built a safe room as an 11-year-old, I suppose, and that would become inappropriate over time. It becomes a jail cell.
Yeah.
And you're not connected because you don't want to be hurt. So I get that, but like now, I would encourage anyone to kick a fucking hole in the wall or kick the door or break a window because it's that important. And it's not about minimizing people's trauma, but and we use the word trauma way too much today. That's my feeling anyway. We kind of make it this thing. Some things you're supposed to have. Like I disagree a lot on what people call triggers. I think in many cases we treat triggers like a trauma.
Okay.
And I don't think they're the same thing. I think a trigger is an opportunity to try and grow. Growth is not fun. It's not gentle.
It's uncomfortable.
It's got to involve some kind of discomfort because that's the growth.
Yeah.
And we almost started to legitimize not growing out of fear and fear of being hurt. I'm learning that resilience is more about nobody can never get hurt. Like that's a weird thing to believe.
Yeah.
How to get hurt is resilience.
How to get hurt.
Yeah, because it's going to happen. Like, sorry, everyone you love is going to die. That's the truth, right? Like, but there's a beauty to that because it gives life a kind of a fucking urgent beauty. And so we should live the fuck out of it. Like that's really important. And we should care about other people and we should do our best. But everybody is going to die. Everything you love is going to end. And I'm cool with that now. I'm totally cool with that because what it means is learning how to go through this gift of being awake and alive. Like you can fart, you can have an orgasm, you can write poetry, you can eat your favorite food, you can be betrayed, you can be wronged, you can be manipulated. Like it's a privilege to be able to do all that, to be conscious.
But I like what you said there with all of that and how we, what was it? Have to learn how to be hurt.
Yeah.
The question is, how do we get to that point of knowing how to get hurt, knowing the boundaries to put in place, knowing how we're going to cope with it. And that's like the greater lesson in everything is those tools and gathering those tools.
And it's the opposite of addiction. It's
the
by
opposite
connecting
of-
with other human beings.
Absolutely.
Even when I've been hurt, even when I've been let down, fucking keep your skin exposed, because that's where that's living. And like being in a safe room is no life for anyone.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Isn't it funny how we'll get to that, but like how addiction became a safe room?
Absolutely.
That makes me it makes me sad, but I love everything you just said.
I don't know if you feel it, but like those times of using, it's like being wrapped in cotton wool.
Absolutely.
Getting back to a room, getting your gear, that pattern that
Yeah.
you know. The moment you take the bag from the dealer, you're set for the next few hours.
Oh, that feeling.
But it's like the most toxic cotton wool. You're wrapping yourself in poison, and
Exactly.
I'm cut off from the world, and I know this pattern.
Yeah.
But it's really shame. It's really guilt. It's really like, I'm no good. This is all I'm ever going to pull off. Like, this is all I can do. And like, ultimately, it was about getting the money to get the stuff, to find a place.
Yeah.
And often a bathroom.
Yeah.
A shitty bathroom with a lock on the door was like, this'll do,
Petrol station bathrooms.
Well, fuck.
That is not a tip.
No, it's not a tip. And it went on from there because it was booze. Then it was, I couldn't drink enough because it kept putting me on the ground. So I had to do something else to stay upright. So then it was like stimulants. And then, ultimately I went to rehab the first time and I gave up, my two drugs of choice, so alcohol and cocaine. But I came out and I was an untreated addict because I didn't take the program very seriously. So then I started using people as a drug.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I absolutely know what you mean.
And that's the tragedy. Because you're sober, people think you're cool.
Do you want to explain what that means to you?
Sure.
Because I also feel that ties into, he left out a massive part of his life about, about how you got into comedy.
Sure.
The attention around that, the
Absolutely.
fame that came with
Yeah.
it. I used to watch this man on Live at 5. It was on Mnet, right?
There was.
And you used to wear dresses, you used to paint your nails, and it was so cool to see like an alternative kind of person on the screen. That was like the early 2000s or late 90s.
Yeah, late 90s.
So you were really getting attention at that point.
Well, like at school, I suppose, sorry, I went off track, but people would laugh at me so I wouldn't get hit, and then I turned that into a job. Like I went off and I had very understanding parents who saw me kind of falling apart, and I never really was honest about what happened to me as a kid. There was too much shame, and I just couldn't. Again, I didn't want the discomfort of the reality of that conversation.
Exactly.
So I lied and kind of made things up, and so anyway, I ended up at drama school, and very quickly.
Hey, drama school kids.
Hey, cool kids.
We're all in rehab.
Yeah, you're not a weirdo. You're just an artist. You're going to be fine. So I turned it into a job, and I often think that maybe comedy for me was the path of least resistance again. It was the fastest route to get all the credit because it's me on my own on stage.
Oh, wow.
I'm a loner, so comics work. You travel on your own, you work on your own, you go back to a room on. It's the same safe room, but you're just getting a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And the fuck up with someone who's never processed their own stuff, you can't give like an ego attention. It just doesn't go well. So that became, using people as a drug, using influence as a drug, using power in my own industry, because when I started comedy, there weren't very many people doing it. And I got the benefit of being a new generation of comic, given all the kind of attention and the credibility, because we were post-democratic comedians, or post-democracy. So it was like a new era. We were like this shiny new thing. And we got like lots of stuff, just fucking lovely flights, great hotel rooms, fuck whatever you wanted, and you could leave shit behind you on tour. So you could make a total fucking mess as a human and just be in a new clean room the next day in a new place with new people to play with.
Wow.
It was just fucking a terrible situation, but
perfect breeding ground.
Perfect breeding ground. And so finally at the age of like 48, because I stopped doing alcohol and cocaine like 18, 19 years ago now.
Wow.
But I was a very sick individual without them.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, they were like medicine. Most drug addicts are trying to medicate. That's the idea. I'm not justifying it, but that's the behavior.
Of course.
And I'm sure you can relate to that. But take away medicine and replace it with fuck all, Now you get down to the bare nuts and bolts of an addict, which is anything.
It's
anything.
the trauma,
anyone,
pre-addiction, trauma collected in addiction. Your favorite word. It's your mental health.
Yeah.
It's how you communicate with people, and you didn't have like a community then.
Yeah.
So you create your own kind of game.
Yeah. So getting off on people in power, and when you're not used to intimacy because you've never had it and you've never looked for it, and you're charming, that's fucking dangerous. And if you've got some fame, it's even worse because you convince people to be intimate with you.
Wow.
And I can read a fucking room, whether it's like 3,000 people or one.
Yeah.
I'm really good at reading one. So the John show, if you're a woman, is like fantastic for a couple of weeks. And I can see your soul. And then I'm giving you fuck all back. And then I just pull the rug, because it's like my eating disorder, which bloomed. So I starve myself of attention. That's the being isolated. You build up an incredible hunger. So you get an appetite. So when you finally connect with someone, you binge on them.
Yeah.
And that binging can be positive. It can feel good for them, almost overwhelming.
Yeah.
But at some point you realize this isn't what you were looking for. So you purge and that person gets spat out. Like it's really awful.
Yeah.
So, and in all of this, I have a daughter. I mean, this child was fucking growing up in this twisted environment. And thank God she's a really fucking beautiful, wonderful human today.
Yes, she is. She's amazing.
She's amazing, and I can't take any of the credit. But
yes, you can a bit.
But then I want to talk about finally doing that horrible stuff to someone, and they just said you need help, and I really thought in my twisted mind if I went to pretend to get help that they would be there.
Hold on, let's get back to that. So what happened was, so you got sober. So there's a difference between sobriety and recovery, right?
Absolutely, yes, yeah.
So you did get sober from those substances specifically.
Yes.
Then you were using people
Absolutely.
as kind of your drug of choice. And then someone that was someone you had a relationship with, whatever it was, said to you, you need to get help.
Yeah, I treated them really badly. I harmed them. And in the process of that kind of fallout, I decided to start telling the truth about the fact that I had an eating disorder. I'd been using THC. I'd been using codeine, acting out with sex workers. Like I just wasn't a very, there's no substance left because it is progressive.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what you say. If you don't work some kind of constant program, it will progress. And that's what happened. You just get hollowed out, So I went to get help, and that's just when we met again.
I love the story. Tell the story, John.
It's crazy.
Make it about me.
So to be honest, Tone, I mean, I was really happy that there was this kind of good-looking woman at a meeting who's going to welcome me in. That was kind of cool because I was still a long way from getting better, and that was cool. And then I went off to treatment, right? So I was gone for 3 months, and this is the truth, man. When the day I got out, like I'd signed myself out of the treatment center. First WhatsApp that I get, not the old ones, a fresh one arrives in my inbox. Tony saying, hey man, where are you? You just vanished. I'm like, fuck, you won't believe this. I've been in treatment for 3 months. And I'll talk about what happened in treatment.
Yeah, that's very important.
I want to tell the story. Yeah. So anyway, you said, hey, what are you doing tomorrow night? Because I'm sharing 10 years.
Yeah.
At the bonfire.
Yeah.
And so are we breaking anonymity by admitting that we were at meetings?
We're not. So here's the thing. So to everyone watching this, we can say that we're part of a 12-step meeting. We can say it's
everyone
NA.
knows.
Yeah. So this is about anonymity of the group. We're not mentioning other people.
Great.
We're not mentioning what happens.
I don't mind.
I consent for the whole world, as you all know, that I am in a 12-step group. John, do you consent?
Me too. I'm totally fucking
consent.
Yes.
Anonymity is not broken.
I'm not supposed to promote it, but
no, we can subtly say that it helped us.
Yeah. So I went to that meeting. It was my first meeting getting home, and I'll never forget that because I'm going to say this now because I'm being interviewed. You played a huge role because you almost put aside whatever the fuck you were doing and you came to meetings almost every night with me, like for a long time.
I did.
We did all kinds of stuff together in recovery. And like, I will never, ever be able to explain how grateful I am because you are amazing. And this stuff that you do online, I have been to places where I've watched kids who've seen you on TikTok come running. Stop. You can get all humble, but I don't mind. You are a fucking activist because you actually help. And I've watched young people, women, men, they've approached you like, Tone, it's amazing. I mean, thanks, you actually do the work, you know? So we started all that stuff. But in treatment, you're so welcome. It's just the truth. And you're a fucking amazing human at this stuff because you love.
John.
You love. Thanks, but it's not about me. It's not always about me. This is what
you're being interviewed.
I know.
It's all about him right now.
It is true. It's all about me. So the treatment facility. Treatment. Yes. So, and I know that you have fantastic stories about this, but your own experience because you have more experience of more places than I do. I only have 2.
I have 3. I have one more.
One more.
It's like collecting Pokemons.
Exactly.
How many rehabs have you been to? That doesn't matter to anyone watching. People get clean with rehab, without rehab, and it's not about how many you've been to. That was a joke.
No, listen, and you can even get clean without rehab. You can go to meetings, and that can work. Yep. You know, so that's also true. So ultimately, I call it the Hobbits. I met a bunch of hobbits just like me, and we're all trying to get this fucking ring to this crack of doom. It's a hard job. It's difficult. And the hobbits, if you've ever watched The Lord of the Rings or read it, at any one point, one of the hobbits is having a tough time, and the other hobbits just gather around. And it's that famous quote where they go, you know, you can rely on us to be here. You can rely on us to be your friend. You can rely on what you can't rely on us to do is to ever let you be on your own. Oh. And it's the best summary of like fellowship, and that's why it's called the Fellowship of the Ring. These were all addicts. The hobbits were doing it, man. So I found hobbits for the first time, and all they asked me to do was be honest. They were like, "Look, you can come in. We will love you. You know, you're one of us, but you got to just tell us the truth." And I tried very fucking hard to be charming and use my comedy tricks and not connect, but because of the love of people who've done it.
Yeah, I'm grabbing.
Good. They taught me that love is not always gentle. Love is not always enabling. Love is not this bullshit that we talk about. Oh, I'm intolerant. Oh, shame. Let's start a support group. Like it's more hectic, because that's what I was missing from being a child. Was, hey, fuck you, tell the truth.
Yeah.
And that was love. And so I decided to be honest and I found something. And people always say, it's a spiritual thing, and it really is. But I think I first encountered like my idea of God cleaning a toilet for other people, a dirty toilet.
So this was in the facility.
In the facility.
As well, yeah.
One of those days when things started to shift for me was cleaning a toilet, and I had a really set attitude about cleaning toilets, like it was beneath me. And there's something about cleaning someone else's dirty toilet for me that suddenly started to change things. And I realized that it's better for us as a community if we keep our toilets clean. Yeah. It doesn't matter who does whatever, but if I can do something, maybe that's a better way. So it started there, and then things just started to change, and I started to make real friends with people in the facility where some of them I will never see again. But for that time, we agreed to work on, integrity, honesty, support for each other, catching each other out, calling each other's bullshit, triggering each other, dealing with that fallout. And the one rule was we were stuck together.
You can't get out of it. Well, you can.
I mean, you can. You can sign yourself out, and people did. I watched people sign themselves out and come back worse within days.
Yeah.
And then I came out, and then we really, our friendship has been a major part of this process, because I've learned, for example, with you, how to create a healthy relationship and a friendship that is only about the wellness of my friend. Do you know what I mean?
I do. Like, there's no, you learn that nothing needs to have an ulterior motive.
Yeah.
That there needs to be no manipulation to get something that you want. And that's what I wanted to ask you from in the rehab. And you touched on this. And I went through this. So like we said, I'd been to other facilities. And the last facility I went to, which I also just want to say, and I always say this, rehab is a privilege. it's a privilege to go to rehab. So if you're listening to this and you're hearing me share on this, please know that rehab is not it's just a place that feels safe in the beginning, and when you leave, things change. Okay, that's the real hard part, and you can do it without rehab. There are free support groups, no matter where you find them, in different places that are available. And I've got like a link in my link tree that takes you all to them. So just know, if you're hearing this and you feel like separate from it, just know these places are available. The work that happened in rehab for me is what happened within the greater community of a 12-step program. But what I found, and you touched on it in rehab, is just how much I genuinely lied and manipulated the system so hard in the last 2 rehabs I went to. Like hard. I knew what to say at the right time to make a counselor cry. I knew how to make someone feel sorry for me and get what I wanted. Like everything was a performance and everything was an act to get me to the final destination, which was leaving the rehab to magically be able to find a job and use again successfully.
Yeah.
Like that was the process. I didn't really want to get better. And in the last rehab is where I really kind of surrendered to the process of getting to know the people in that space, other addicts, and also the personality differences, like immediately wanting to judge people and be like, oh, this person's an asshole, this is that, you know? And then really hearing in a group setting or in a meeting or anything like that, just how similar we are, the similarities rather than the differences.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I ever felt like genuine human connection. Okay, so when you were in the facility.
Yes.
And you were so in the beginning, if you were like me, like you were saying, you know, you're kind of holding back on telling, or even like holding back on self-awareness. But I feel like you were like me, where you did know what you were doing, but you still continued
Totally. Like on a deep level, I didn't want anyone in that place to know me because then they would hate me.
Yeah, what shifted that?
They did. They just insisted. They were like, dude, we've been watching you. You know, the thing about a therapeutic community, which is the kind of facility I was in, is it's constant. So that, you know, as the people who are more senior in the process, you know, get leadership positions, they actually govern a little bit. And then you have these sessions where people raise their kind of concerns about your behavior in the community.
Concern groups.
Yeah. And so it was my first experience of being exposed. And not being able to run anywhere. Yeah. You know, which I'm really grateful for. So the first couple I try to squirm a little bit, but the problem is once one person raises it and other people start to back it up, it's very hard to kind of get out of that, you know?
Yeah.
So it happened, and I decided to tell the truth about who I was and stuff. And that was one of the turning points, because you know, it was after that I experienced even more acceptance and even more love. Nobody let me off the hook, but they were supportive of the courage and of the honesty. And then they knew who they were dealing with.
Yeah.
And I wish I could have been like that with people before I harmed them.
Yeah.
Given them the choice to know who they were dealing with. I never did that.
Yeah.
And it's really fucking awful to do that to people. That's why, you know, I talk about trauma, but, you know, you can hear that I've got a very difficult relationship with this idea of trauma, because fucking how much trauma did I pass on?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? I caused trauma to people.
Yeah.
So like to sit back and go, oh, I'm the victim of trauma. Fuck. There are a lot of people who've been traumatized, who've never traumatized anyone in their life. They were big enough people to do that. And so when I talk like that about trauma and I'm kind of negative about it, it's because I understand that a loving approach is not to give trauma too much oxygen.
I get that. I do get that. And I feel the same. I feel like for me, one of the biggest excuses when it came to my addiction specifically was I'm using drugs to numb the trauma. And that was what I told myself, like as an excuse.
Yeah.
As an excuse. But then within that becomes addiction. And within that, I create more trauma for myself and for other people. And there's a lot of guilt in that as well.
Yeah.
That can kind of keep you sick if you're aware of it.
Yeah.
But I got to a point where I stopped caring.
Yeah.
And but I get that. Like being in a community of people who are able to say to you, hey man, I've seen this behavior in you. Get honest about it.
Yeah.
and you just kind of surrender to it, where you're like, fuck, these people know me for me.
Yeah.
I'm just going to surrender to this process.
Yeah. And you know, it's a resonance as opposed to like an accusation.
Yeah.
There's a room full of people going, we've done what you've done. That's why we can spot it. Like, it's not a case of like we fucking judging you like locker room bullies.
Yes.
I would choose to see it that way. That was my survival strategy as an addict growing up.
Yeah.
But the thing about love is it doesn't let up on the pressure.
Yeah.
Real love, it holds you by. I mean, we've had these conversations and you've said to me, hey, what the fuck's going on? Like,
I have.
And you know, like, it's just a beautiful privilege to have friends who can, you know, love you in that way where you can go, listen, I mean, I feel for you, but don't fucking come with that. Like, and it's like, you know.
And you've done that for, I just want everyone to know he's done that for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, that's how you give love back.
Yeah.
And so, to this day, once a week, I go and see, you know, my sponsor and he will call me on bullshit. I will have coffee with friends. And the difference now is if there's something I don't want to tell you, it's on my list of things I definitely have to tell you that day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I know now that that's the way forward. It's connection. Yeah. When I isolate, like I fill that drawer with shit and it just festers. And so you know, I'm more aware of it now. And that doesn't mean it's over. You know, I still wake up sometimes with a monster, you know, in my head. But I'm learning how to, you know, live with it a little better. Because the other thing I want to say is that I have to accept that.
Yeah.
I don't beat the monster.
Good.
That's a bullshit story, you know.
Yeah.
I don't constantly tell myself that I'm guilty of all the things I've done.
Yeah.
You know, I'm getting...
Which is hard.
It's so hard. But, you know, again... This thing of addiction is the opposite of connection with myself as well. So I try to wake up in the morning and be a friend to myself. So the way I might, if you phoned me and you told me you did something really wrong, right? I think about how would I talk to Tony if she took the time and the trouble to tell me that she did something wrong.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But then the question is, do I talk to John like that? Do you know what I mean? And the truth is, most of the time, no.
Yeah.
I will talk to myself much worse.
Yeah.
So why do I get different? And you know, in Buddhism, we talk about become a friend to yourself and then be a friend to the world. Like, that's a really beautiful way to spend time. Becoming a friend to myself, like in the facility, like in the bounds of our friendship. There's certain things that you won't compromise on.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because you love me, like that.
Yeah.
That's the point. So that's why I have a weird relationship with this idea of trauma. Because yes, I understand bad things happen. I don't want to take that away from anyone. But it cannot be a get out of jail card. It cannot be a voucher writing system for bad behavior or staying stuck in a particular behavior.
Of course.
You know.
Of course.
So that's what they did for me. And then obviously when I came out, like, you know, you come into the
Of
world.
rehab.
when you come out of rehab, you come back into the world and the world kind of hits you. And that's where more than ever you need good friends in recovery who are going to be that constant help, you know. And so that's why in many ways I began some friendships from scratch.
100%, yeah. Can you, okay, so I speak about this a lot, so I'm going to get to, I just want to touch on a few things. So with that, for me, okay, I went to rehab, I came out, I had no substances left and no substance left because every part of me was a character I created throughout my life. Very similar to how you kind of became a stage persona, you became a character thriving on that kind of attention. I created a character for myself. Of how I would survive in the world. So then I get sober, I leave rehab, and now I'm stuck with the shell, like an empty shell of a human being. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I like. I don't know what kind of music I like because everything was fake. Everything was me taking pieces of other people's personalities and wearing it as my own.
Yeah.
So now I'm just left the shell. And then I just lost my train of thought. Then living with that, you feel that there's an isolation because all the people I was friends with were active addiction friends. So people who I used with. And I personally had to cut those people off.
Yeah.
Not because they were bad people, but because they enabled my own addiction and kind of left the door open for me. Then the good people that I had in my life pre-addiction, at that point had enough of me. It was enough. I was lying. I was stealing. They didn't want anything to do with me. Fair enough. So there's the sense of complete isolation. And it's funny, in addiction, at the end of my addiction, I was isolated. I was alone using in a car in a parking lot.
Yeah.
But that because that was so familiar, that was comforting. So now I'm left by myself and with like all the stuff I learned about myself in rehab. And this is where, for me, like you've touched on, when Dr. Gabor Mate says the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's human connection. The way I got to relearn who I was through human connection. For me, it was the 12 steps. For you, it was the 12 steps, like going to these places to meet people and communicate with people, hear their stories, and learn who I am through that interaction and be loved through that interaction.
Yeah.
So when you left, I know did you feel that loneliness? Like, how did you build up your community, your connection? And also, you mentioned previously, so I have a very complicated relationship with the understanding of God. Okay. So I find it in connection and community. And you said previously, like when you first tried the 12 steps for the first time, you were like a staunch atheist, right?
Absolutely.
Staunch atheist. So there's been a massive shift in your recovery now with real community. So this is the change from you, the way you described yourself previously. Real community, learning how to make friends as opposed to use people as a pawn.
Yeah.
And a connection with a higher power that you found. And I think that's important to hear you share on.
Yeah, like, so, I mean, I was a very proud atheist. I'm learning in life, and I really am someone who's interested in intellectual stuff. But my understanding now is that intellectualism is like an enemy. My mind is what fucked me in the first place. So connection is for me, it's going down into the heart. And the way to that was to get down off my high horse. I used to love going to dinner parties and eviscerating people who had some kind of religion. I thought it was really cool. Ultimately, now I know that I was just doing it to make them feel as shit as I feel most of the time. So I was told I had to, and I decided to listen to my counselor. So he said, like, you're going to have to find someone to pray to, and you can decide, but it's got to be someone who's not you. And so I prayed to Bill Murray pretty hard for the first 18 months.
I ruined that for John. I'm so sorry.
Listen, God. Bill, how could you? The idea of Bill Murray was just a trick to get me into something more important. And I'll never forget, so my counselor said, so how are you praying? And I said, well, I'll wait for my roommate to go to bed. And then I kind of, say my prayers lying down. And he was like, okay, but I asked you to pray on your knees. And I'm like, well, because I think I'm clever. I said, no, but God doesn't need me on my knees. And he said, I didn't ask you to do it for God. You need to do it for yourself, you arrogant prick. And it was really humbling, and I didn't like it. But as I'm learning in life, if there's something I don't like, it's useful for me to stay with the resistance, to go there and be in the presence of my own resistance to it, because that's the teacher. So I started to pray to Bill Murray, and what then happened was, you spoke about friendship and masks. What started to happen when I became a little bit more open to this, me not being the director of the universe, the big manipulator pulling all the strings, something changed where I became responsible to those friendships. And so it wasn't about what I could get. I love what you said about making friends instead of using people, because I used to disguise using people as having friendships. And I love what you said there. So for the first time in my life, I was part of a system where I didn't have to think what happened yesterday, because my friendships would pick up where we left off, exactly where we left off yesterday. And my responsibility was to make sure that I picked up exactly where we left off. And I know I'm saying picked up here, and that's a strange term. But what I mean is where we left off yesterday is where we're going to start again today.
Exactly.
That consistency of accountability. And so being in service, ultimately, it takes me out of the center of the universe. And that's why we need something bigger than ourselves to kind of hand things over to, because I'm not in control. And I know I said earlier, everything we love is going to die. Like, it's this temporary nature. It's my small nature that means I'm not qualified to run the universe. So you need something else, whether it's a rhythm that the kind of cosmos works to, or whether it's, some people talk about like this sort of manifestation stuff, like it's the secret, like whatever, like that's fine.
Don't judge that.
Well, I mean, it works for them, and I'm thrilled for them. Like I'm happy that everyone finds their way.
Exactly. Yeah.
But whatever you describe it as is important. And as a friend, like you've just pointed out, which you often do, and I love you for that, is
what did I do?
Who am I to like belittle someone else's system? Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm fully with you on that one. You're right. This is why I love the friendship. And so there's something changed for me, and ultimately that's become quite a religious practice of Buddhism, because you don't have to practice Buddhism as a religion. You can decide how you want to do it, but for me, it's in the ritual, it's in the prayer. I love the meditation, I love the mental hygiene, but there's something about devotion, there's something about offerings, there's something about taking refuge, which is a form of handing it over.
Yeah.
The idea is that we go to the three jewels because the world is too much.
So in the recovery circle we're in, they speak of a higher power.
Yeah.
We find it in whatever kind of works for us. And I think it's incredible that you found your own, because I remember you discussing, how strong your atheism was and how much you kind of read the program or recover, like the 12-step recovery to filth. And it's cool to see that kind of growth and how you found something and how you found community and how you found speaking to people and engaging with community and making friends.
Yeah.
But there is something I just feel is important that you mentioned previously that I really just want to discuss before we get to like the end of everything, is you touched on the fact that you struggled with an eating disorder.
Yeah.
And for me, when I first got sober, my biggest issue was my eating disorder. It came to the surface worse than it had ever been before, and it nearly took me out.
Yeah.
But I feel it's really important to have a male perspective on it, because people are ashamed.
Yeah.
And they feel a lot of guilt around it.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank you for actually speaking about that and like being a voice for that, because there's a lot of people struggling.
Yeah, it's just not cool. You can say you struggle with heroin or like crack. It's like rock and roll, and people glorify it.
Yeah.
But very difficult for a guy to say, I can't handle my lasagna. It sounds ridiculous, but it's such a devious fucking disorder. And I see so much damage. And as you know, we've met lots of kids together who fucking try to kill themselves. I mean, it's really bad. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about that, but the point is it's really cuck. And this is a thing you can't avoid. You've got to face this thing at least 3 times a day if you're doing it in a balanced way, sometimes 6 if you're on some kind of plan. So it's important. And I'm grateful in a way to have admitted to it, because it's the way in which we deal with it. The way in which we deal with it is so much more nuanced than you can't have it.
Exactly. It's not the same as putting down a substance.
It's a daily dance. And for me, it's helped me to understand my addiction in kind of, as a total package.
Yeah.
So I will never stop talking about the eating disorder stuff and admitting to it wherever I can. Because it doesn't matter where I go. And I notice every day more and more people coming up and going, how can I get help with this? And I've watched a lot of people come to you because of the TikTok stuff, just need help, eh? So someone to talk to, like you said, because admitting it is just such a big beginning.
It's a huge relief.
Yeah.
It's a step. And I just want to say, you found support within a 12-step community.
Yeah.
You found support within a Buddhist in a Buddhist community, right?
Yeah.
For the eating disorder, what is it that you do to help yourself, and what are the tools or the places you have found that have helped it?
Yeah, so there's a 12-step program for this as well.
Yes, there is.
I'm a part of that, as you know.
John's a big part of it.
Well, Tony is, it's a 50-50, so I won't hear any different.
They don't know what we're talking about, don't worry.
Yeah.
We just realized we'd break anonymity if we continued with that conversation.
Yeah. So there is a program, there is help, and you can find it online.
What
you
is
just
the
have
program?
to type Eating Disorders Anonymous into a search bar, and you'll get help, and you'll find out that it's all over the world. There's great literature, and there are people. There's a community.
Yeah.
There's you can be in constant contact with people in your area on this, and those people are very compassionate. They really want to help. So that's good. I would encourage a team of people if you have the luxury, the privilege of talking to a dietitian, talking to kind of therapists, talking to those people. The program is designed to incorporate as many of those people as possible. It's a very inclusive program.
Yeah. And all different kinds of eating disorders.
Absolutely. You don't have to label yourself because often I found my behaviors kind of cluster.
Yeah.
And so to label it as one thing is not helpful to me.
Yeah.
So I like a generalized program.
Yeah.
And so as you know, that's a really good start, is to reach out and just identify yourself as having a problem. Be amazed how the hobbits will come out of the woodwork.
I love that so much. I love that.
Yeah.
And one more thing. I just want to say to everyone watching this, I messaged John to do this interview 2 weeks ago or whatever. No, a while ago. And he agreed everything. Today, I realized that today is your 3 years sober birthday, John. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, clap, guys. Yeah.
Thanks for the help, Tone, because it's not by myself. It's a team effort. And the only thing I can do today is express gratitude to the people who've helped me, and you're a huge part of that. So thanks. It's nice, but I really had a lot of help.
But you did the work and continue to do the work.
Thank you.
So give yourself that.
Can we
credit.
celebrate? I'll tell you what.
Yes, listen, guys.
It's a tradition.
Okay.
No one panic. No one panic.
This isn't alcohol.
No, at all. We have a tradition.
Okay, explain the tradition, please.
Whenever we celebrate anything, we do a pure ginger shot. And it just reminds us that
we're healthy.
We're healthy and we can celebrate.
And I also just want to say to anyone, if you are not in a good place with your recovery and you struggle with this kind of stuff, don't do it. It creates a burning sensation down your throat. We are in a place where this is absolutely fine, and we've created routine and joy around it. Don't do it if it triggers you. Okay, let's not push ourselves, but it doesn't trigger us.
And I'm going to refer to you the way I've always referred to you.
Yes.
Cheers, Butch.
Cheers, Butch. Vlismas. Guys, I have before you start, I have really bad acid reflux. I have GERD, which is a consequence of my eating disorder. And I am going to suffer to dinner. I took my pills today. My pills today. Let's go.
Cheers.
Yeah, I'm acting. I'm like, I'm fine.
Wow.
Everything's great.
Wow. I feel younger.
Definitely.
I feel 26.
I am now, how old am I? I'm 39. I'm 29. John.
I'm not. I'm older than Mnet.
It's like health going through your body.
I can feel it going down. I really can. Wow.
And, okay, one last thing. John, first of all, thank you so much for, I need to put these glasses down.
You are so fucking welcome, Tone. Anything for you, Chana.
I want to thank you for being, my mouth is burning, for being here today. And like, if you have a message, okay, I'm trying to say this like, this is like doing the hot chili challenge.
Yes, it is. Except the chili is moving fast, quite a
fast
pace.
What advice would you have for someone now who is currently struggling with an addiction or struggling with an eating disorder? Like, what would be your advice?
My big things are, I know it feels like you're alone. You absolutely are not. You are never, ever alone. And all you need to do is the thing you don't want to do, which is reach out.
Yeah.
Reach out and let someone else know, because the moment you're not doing it by yourself, you're kind of coming out of that safe room. It's not a safe room beyond a certain point. So it's a bad place. And you are not guilty of anything, and you don't have things to be ashamed of. Every single person has got stuff to deal with.
Yeah.
You are not, like, you don't deserve to suffer.
You don't deserve to suffer.
Yeah. And there's love for you. I don't even know you. I love you. If you tell me you need help, I will love you. It's part of my job. That's what I do now. I was loved unconditionally, and I love anyone unconditionally who reaches out, and so do all the people who get this program. So you're not alone, and you are loved. It doesn't matter what you've done.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
I just want to say to everyone watching, John and I, again, part of a 12-step program. That works for us. There's so many communities available to you. We find what works for us. For me, the ultimate thing is human connection. Wherever you find it, when it's healthy and it's kind, that's what it's about. It's hard to build that. It's hard to start from scratch, but it's possible. We've seen it with John.
And Tony.
We've seen it. Look at it.
Ta-da!
We found it. And then one last thing before we wrap up. I want to shout out the amazing podcast studio and coffee shop.
Holy fuck, the coffee here is unbelievable. What's it called?
Bunakus.
Bunakus.
Bunakus in Norwood.
It's Ethiopian.
Yes.
And it's fucking amazing.
It's incredible.
Come here and enjoy not just the coffee, the people.
The people,
blend
dude.
of people is better than the blend of the day, and the blend of the day is very good. So
It's amazing here.
Yeah.
It's in Norwood. It is at the factory on Grant. Did I get it right, guys? I got it right. And I have seen this place like literally from when it started to where it is now, and it's one of my favorite places to visit. And we're going to be doing a lot of interviews here.
I'm going to do meetings here. I'm going to come and just meet people here.
We're just going to hang out.
Delightful.
Yeah. So that's John. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Tone.
For being here, and thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing your story, and for actually helping empower people with the tools to get help. And
Get help.
Get help.
It's such a good idea.
And that's it, man.
Thank you, but I love you lots.
Love you, bro.
Yeah.
Love you, Vlismas. Okay, guys, it's the end. We're going to wrap it up,
This
and
is
I'm
the
going to
end.
say one last thing. Remember, we do recover. Love you.
That was 8 last things.
It was. That's what